Forget everything you think you know about school, because in some parts of the world, schooling is strange. I'm Mike with List 25, and here are 25 interesting facts about schools around the world. 25. Sweden has forest schools. Before starting formal school at the age of 6, a lot of Swedish kids spend their early years learning in the great outdoors through a program called Skogsmulle. It's been around since 1957 thanks to Gustaf Fram, an ex-military man who believed that kids shouldn't just read about nature, they should experience it. And the results speak for themselves. Kids who take part show greater independence, self-sufficiency, and self-esteem. Studies even show that they start formal school with better cognitive function, motor coordination, and balance. The idea has since caught on, and forest schools have now started popping up in countries like Germany, the UK, the USA, and Australia. 24. Students and cleaning. In Japan, students participate in suji, a school-wide cleaning session for about 15 to 30 minutes every day. They sweep classrooms, mop hallways, wipe down desks, and even clean the toilets. It usually happens after lunch or at the end of the day, and there is no janitorial staff to do it for them. The idea is simple. If you make a mess, you clean it up. More than just tidying up, suji also teaches responsibility, teamwork, and respect for shared spaces. Something the rest of the world could probably learn from. 23. Next level lunches. Did you know that French schools used to serve wine with lunch? Kids under 14 were eventually banned from drinking alcohol in 1956, but it took until 1981 for alcohol to be completely removed from school cafeterias. Luckily, these days, school lunches in France look very different. They're not just about nutrition, they're also teaching kids how to eat well. And by well, I mean that their typical meal includes 4 courses: a cold starter, a warm main dish, cheese, and dessert, usually fresh fruit, plus a slice of bread and water. And there's no rushing. Kids are expected to stay seated for at least 30 minutes to enjoy their meal and learn the art of dining. 22. Kids cycle to school. In Denmark, 2 wheels are often better than 4. 90% of Danes own a bike, and almost 16% of all trips in the country happen on 2 wheels. With over 12,000 kilometers or 7,500 miles of national cycling routes, and 397 kilometers or 246.7 miles of dedicated bike lanes in Copenhagen alone, cycling is simply part of life. So it's no surprise that Danish kids start young. More than 40% of children cycle to school, staying active, getting independent, and living eco-friendly along the way. 21. Canada has indoor playtimes. How cold is too cold for recess? Well, in Canada, winter temperatures can drop so low that outdoor play just isn't an option. In Ontario, many schools keep kids inside when it hits negative 20 to negative 28 degrees Celsius. That's negative 4 to negative 18 degrees Fahrenheit, meaning they have to stay active indoors instead. If it gets even colder, schools sometimes close altogether. Hello, snow days. But for those who still have to commute, getting around in the snow isn't easy. At least in Toronto, there's the Path, a 30-kilometer or 19-mile underground tunnel system that lets people dodge the icy winds and get where they need to go without freezing. Yeah, classic Florida problems. Man, all the snow days I had as a kid. 20. The best schools in the world? In Finland, kids don't start formal schooling until the age of 7, and yet their education system is consistently ranked among the best in the world. Before starting school, children attend preschools and daycares that focus on creative play and social skills rather than traditional academics. Once in school, the approach stays relaxed. Shorter school days, around 5 hours, little to no homework, and plenty of time for outdoor activities. The focus is on learning, not just memorization. And it works. Finland is a global leader in academic performance, proving that quality beats quantity when it comes to education. 19. The biggest and smallest schools in the world. How big was your school? Because probably wasn't extreme as either of these. Now, mine might actually. I'm gonna test that later. Again, I cold read, so I don't know where this is going, but I'll tell you about my school. The City Montessori School in Lucknow, India is the biggest school in the world and has over 62,000 students and 3,500 dedicated staff across 21 campuses. On the flip side, a primary school in Alpette, Italy once had one single student. In 2014, an 8-year-old girl had the classroom and teacher all to herself. No word on whether or not the school is still open today, but it must have been a school experience like no other. Mine actually didn't beat that. My graduating class was only 3, but we had 100 kids in the entire school, pre-K through 12. It's called Lee Academy. I mean, it is, but was because I went there. Lee Academy in Tampa, Florida. Go Navigators, because we navigated the oceans of education. I think that was our saying. 18. China's Cave School. When the people of Miao, Guizhou province realized they had no funding to build a school, they didn't give up. They got creative. In 1984, they took a massive cave and turned it into the Dongzhong Mid-Cave Elementary School, which literally means inside a cave. For nearly 30 years, local children went to school surrounded by rock walls and an open sky. With 8 teachers and 186 students, classes ran just like any other school, except some children had to travel up to 6 hours a day just to attend. Sadly, the school closed in 2011 under orders from the government. 17. The school at the top of the world. Pumajiangtang Township Primary School in Tibet has held the Guinness World Record as the highest school on Earth, sitting at 5,022 meters, or 16,476 feet above sea level for years. To give you an idea of how high that is, Mount Everest North Base Camp is just a fraction higher at 5,150 meters, or 16,900 feet. The school shut down in 2017, and its students were relocated to a new school 500 meters, or 1,640 feet lower in elevation. But the old site won't go to waste. It's set to be refurbished into a kindergarten. 16. The boat schools of Bangladesh. In Bangladesh, where monsoon floods regularly shut down schools, a nonprofit came up with a brilliant solution: floating classrooms. Shirleshwari Varshangsta has been running solar-powered boat schools since 2002. They pick up kids from riverside villages, dock somewhere, and hold lessons before dropping them off back home. The boats have laptops, books, and even internet access, making sure kids don't fall behind just because their schools are underwater. There are currently over 100 of these boats, and more than 80,000 children have had their chance to keep learning, come rain or shine. And if you're one of those kids watching from one of the boats, hi, let me know in the comments. That'd be cool. You have internet access, so maybe you're watching me. That'd be awesome. 15. The Philippines has a very unique school. The school in the Philippines was built using nothing but plastic bottles, 9,000 of them. Known fittingly as the Bottle School, it's the first of its kind in Asia. Instead of bricks, volunteers filled discarded soft drink bottles with sand, water, and straw to make them sturdy, then stacked them like giant Lego pieces. A cement-like mixture holds everything in place, creating walls that are actually 3 times stronger than concrete. It's a perfect example of how waste can be turned into something that shapes the future. 14. There are train platform schools in India. A unique initiative is bringing education to children in Odisha, India, who might otherwise never enter a classroom. Founded in 1985 by Indrajit Khurana, the train platform schools operate in 10 different stations and reach about 700 children. Instead of waiting for kids to come to school, these schools come to them, offering lessons in literacy, math, and life skills. Run by the Ruchika Social Service Organization, they also provide food and health care, making sure these kids get more than just an education. 13. The US once had an underground school. During the Cold War, the town of Artesia, New Mexico took an extraordinary step to protect its children. In 1962, they built Abo Elementary School, the first underground school in the US, designed to double as a nuclear fallout shelter. The entire facility was beneath the surface, with a playground on the roof. Students entered through 3 separate stairways, each secured by an 1,800-pound steel blast door and equipped with decontamination showers. It had a morgue, generator, well, ventilation system, and stockpiles of food and medicine. Interestingly, many students were unaware they were attending classes in a bomb shelter. Abo Elementary closed in 1995 due to its rising maintenance costs. 12. Germany's celebratory first day. German children have celebrated the start of their first grade with a Schultüte for centuries. And if you're wondering what the heck a Schultüte is, it's this large decorated cone filled with candy, small toys, and school supplies. The idea is to make the start of school feel exciting instead of overwhelming. Some even say these cones grow on trees and are ready to be picked when school begins. The tradition's origins can be found in Saxony and Thuringia, and has since spread across Germany, making sure every child's first day of school starts on a sweet note. 11. Some outback children learn on the radio. In the Australian outback, some kids live so far from the nearest school that a daily commute is physically impossible. So, in 1951, Australia came up with a solution: the School of the Air. At first, kids tuned in via two-way radio, getting their lessons over the airwaves before mailing their assignments to a regional hub. Thankfully, technology has come a long way, and today lessons are delivered through live video, and assignments are submitted online. 10. India's midday meal scheme feeds millions of children daily. India's midday meal scheme, officially launched in 1995, provides hot-cooked meals to 120 million children across 1.27 million schools every single day. The program follows strict nutritional guidelines, and students get at least 450 to 700 calories and 12 to 20 grams of protein per meal. It started as a way to tackle both hunger and school attendance. And it worked. Enrollment skyrocketed. Unfortunately, rising food prices are making it harder to maintain the meal quality. But even so, for millions of kids, the daily meal is their lifeline, and the biggest reason they stay in school. 9. Democratic schools let students make the rules. In most schools, teachers make the rules. But in democratic schools, students get an equal vote. The first of its kind, Summerhill School in England, was founded in 1921, and since then plenty of others have followed. In some places like Sudbury Valley School in Massachusetts, students even vote on hiring or firing teachers. The idea is simple. When students take ownership of their education, they become more independent, responsible, and engaged. 8. Some Colombian kids zipline to school. Most kids take a bus, bike, or walk to school. But in Los Pinos, Colombia, some students zipline instead. Their school sits on the other side of a deep canyon. The only options are a 2-hour jungle hike or a 754-foot-high zipline over the Rio Negro. At speeds of up to 55 miles or 88 kilometers an hour, it's quite the ride. And younger kids who can't go alone are carried in sacks by their parents or older siblings. It's not the safest school run in the world, but for these kids, it's just a regular part of their daily life. 7. There's a real-life school for witches. Move over Hogwarts, there's an actual witch school, and it's been teaching students around the world for years. Offering online courses in paganism and Wicca, students can take classes like Introduction to Wands and Pagans and the Law completely free. The school originally opened in Illinois, but after backlash from locals, including protests and even people sprinkling holy water on cars, it was forced to close its Hoopeston campus. Today, Witch School runs online and has a presence in Salem, Massachusetts, which is probably the most witch-friendly city in the US thanks to the 1692 witch trials. 6. Norway's public schools are mostly free. For years, Norway was one of the few countries where anyone, even international students, could attend school for free. And if you qualify, it still is. Public schools and universities remain tuition-free for Norwegian and EU/EEA students, but those from outside the region now have to pay. That said, Norway still heavily subsidizes education, and many universities offer scholarships for international students, making it possible for some to study there at little to no cost. 5. Dutch kids start school on their 4th birthday. In the Netherlands, kids don't wait for the start of a school year. They start school the day after they turn 4. That means new students join their classrooms all year round instead of in one big batch. The system has its perks. Older kids get time to settle in before younger ones arrive, and by the time they reach the compulsory schooling age of 5, most are at a similar developmental level. This way, school begins when they're ready, not when the calendar says so. 4. Russia's school year always starts on Knowledge Day. In Russia, the school year doesn't wait for a Monday. It always begins on September 1st, no matter what day of the week it falls on. This day is called Knowledge Day, and it kicks off with the first bell ceremony, where 11th graders take the first graders by the hand and lead them into school while ringing a ceremonial bell. The ceremony bridges two worlds. One group is just beginning, while the other is getting ready to say goodbye. 3. Kenyan kids don't have to attend preschool, but most do. In Kenya, preschool isn't mandatory, but most kids go anyway. For many families, it's the first step before primary school, and the government has worked hard to make early education more accessible. Unfortunately, they still have a long way to go. For example, in 2018, 80% of kids were enrolled in pre-primary school, but by 2019, that number had dropped to 65%. That drop boils down to a mix of financial struggles, school shortages, and access issues, especially in rural areas where transport to and from school can be an issue. 2. Philadelphia built a school of the future. In 2006, Philadelphia launched the School of the Future, promising to revolutionize education. No textbooks, no chalkboards, just laptops, smartboards, and digital lockers that opened with ID cards. Even math was taught using OneNote instead of paper. Sounds amazing, right? Well, at first, not so much. Teachers struggled to integrate the tech. Students weren't ready for a fully digital classroom, and the school's test scores weren't great. But over time, things turned around. These days, it's thriving, with a focus on project-based learning and digital skills that actually prepare students for a life after graduation. 1. China's school in the clouds has a basketball court perched off a cliff. China's Gulu Village Primary School sits halfway up a mountain and is accessible only by the dangerous Luoma Way, a winding path with vertical drop-offs, rickety bridges, and narrow rock passages. Now, if that doesn't sound like your ideal morning commute, imagine doing it every single day. Some students hike for up to 5 hours just to get to class, proving just how far they'll go for an education. The school has been run by Shen Qijun since the 1980s, who arrived at just 18 years old and helped to turn things around. One of his biggest upgrades? A basketball court, built from an old blackboard. The only downside? Well, miss a shot and that ball is gone forever. And that's a wrap. But before you go, let's test your memory. How many plastic bottles were used to build the bottle school in the Philippines? A, 5,000, B, 7,500, C, 9,000, or D, 12,000? Drop your answer in the comments, and let's see who's been paying attention. And hey, if you had fun today, please help us out by liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing, clicking that notification bell so you don't miss out on any new content. Now, if you enjoyed today's list and want to hang out a little longer, check out our next video, 25 Fascinating Facts You Won't Learn in School, where I delved into toast physics, flatworm horror stories, and all the things school definitely didn't teach you. You definitely don't want to miss it. Thank you guys so much, and as always, don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, click that notification bell so you don't miss out on any new content, and I will catch you next time. Time to go to school. Hufflepuff Pride, baby.